Jeff, how are you ever surprised about what Matt Prater is able to do? Just scored his 1800th career point, most by an active player. Are you ever surprised by it anymore?
Surprise, probably not the right word. He reminds you how good he is all the time. So that's refreshing, and he's continuing to do a good job.
You mentioned last year that from your time in Denver to last year that you couldn't really see much of a difference in terms of his leg strength. It's remained very consistent. What is it about his process that allows him to still have that strength and remain consistent in year number 18?
I think it's a better question for him. I think that process has changed over time, tweaked over time as guys age. Sometimes their routines will change, how often they kick, how often, like per days they kick, or the volume in which in a day that they kick, his off-season stuff. It's a better question for him, but I know this: he takes care of himself very well, and as the season goes on, that's something that we're always mindful of with all the specialists, regardless of age, is making sure they're ready to go every week. So that process will probably change throughout the season as well.
Jeff, 3 games in now, are you seeing teams settling in on this kickoff, the whole new thing now? Are you feeling more confident in where you're at with that?
Let's say last week in our game, right, like we kicked all touchbacks. Detroit, similar. Washington's had 18 kickoffs. 12 of them have been returned. They've had one onside attempt, and 4 touchbacks. They had 1 out of bounds kick, but they're more often than not the ball's in play. So it's going to continue to be evaluated. Schematically, what you want to do against one team doesn't necessarily play against another team. So we're still evaluating that for this week, but they're a pretty aggressive team. I would imagine that there's going to be a kickoff that gets returned this week.
It's going to come off way different than it should, but this is the most you've worked every week.
I can't wait. What?
Is this the most you've worked every week in a long time, preparing, because every game plan is going to be a little bit different?
No, it's similar than what it's been. We watch every play of every game every week, and in the past we wouldn't necessarily be studying every scheme. It may be you're evaluating. Was it an onside kick, or was it a longer return, or did they get tackled inside the 10? Why? What are the penalties that are being called around the league? Whereas there is more detail that you're trying to dive in, and we're continuing to watch and study every kickoff play that gets returned, and both the returning and the coverage aspect of it. So I don't know when that's going to slow down. There's not enough of a sample size, but every week we've done this, we learn something new, and hopefully it helps us along the way.
Has there been any kind of common theme, or has it just been kind of up in the air every week?
Are you talking about schematically?
Yeah.
It's been different. There are certainly some schemes that you see on a week-to-week basis, and as the season unfolds, the newer players around the league, maybe rookies who have established themselves as dominant players, in the coverage aspect, they're probably going to get a little more attention. Or if you're going through a certain week, we were watching a team today that there's a player that struggled last week. Well, he was a part of a different style of block where he had a little more assistance this week. So you start to see those types of things, but I don't think there's a common scheme that I see all of the time.
How has this affected the onside kick? Obviously, it's got to make the announcement. They know it's coming.
Right.
How has that changed everything?
I would say it has changed things. The return teams no longer have to protect against the ball getting beyond 25 yards. So whereas there used to be a guy at that mark and a guy a little bit deeper to protect yourself against that, they're both up. So theoretically, they've got more resources committed to the onside kick than what they did in the past. The kick percentage, we'll see at the end of it. There was one recovered this past week, so that it's still alive. But yeah, it's changed the strategy part of it. I would say the biggest change has been, again, let's go back to our game. There's 3:40 and some change left. We're down. Are we onside kicking or not? Well, in past years, Detroit's going to have their hands team on the field, right? Like we've got one timeout in that situation, or however many timeouts we had in that situation, and they've got to protect against the onside. We're probably not going to onside kick, but it's a possibility. So like in the past, that may have been a ball that you're kicking, making the return team return it because you have a bunch of guys out there who aren't trained to block quite as well. That's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed and taken into account.
Overall, with the lack of return, I mean, the trend towards more touchbacks, is there some sort of tweak to this rule that you would like to see next year?
I think I want to get through this year and kind of go at it from there. I mean, just realistically speaking, there's some things that have come up within the first 3 weeks that I think will change by the end of the season. So, however it plays out, it's certainly changed the aspect of the game where the ball's being kicked off and the offense takes our offense, their offense, games you're watching on TV, like the ball's at midfield in a hurry, and like those punts that used to be back. When you got the touchback, it's kickoff return. They kick the touchback, ball's at the 20. You make a first down while you're punting from the 31, and the other team's taking it over somewhere in the 20s, 30s. Like one first down puts them in a position where it's highly likely they're going to put it inside the 20. Whether you get it out of there or not, it's not. So like that just swings it that way, and then that's where the offenses and the punt and punt return teams come into play to how far can that ball move, and just volley back and forth. But it does get to midfield sooner after touchbacks now.
Is there anything you do different in prep week when the other team has a left-footed punter just to get the return, or maybe a little more accustomed to it when the ball comes off a lefty's foot?
Sometimes. Yeah, I mean, the ball definitely spins. It's definitely different. It's more people are probably familiar with a baseball pitcher who's right-handed or left-handed, like the ball spins and tails differently. So there's ways that we can tweak the jugs machine to help with those things. At times, sometimes there might be a guy that works out for you. Some teams sign guys to the practice squads. So there's a number of things that we'll do to take that into account.